welcome to one of the most interesting, enlightening, and inspiring conversations that we are going to have on EduSearch Clinics. I am Dr. Gunjan Desai. This video is for each and every one of you, whether you want to become a doctor or you are an aspiring surgeon or you have a child who wants to be a doctor, because it's going to answer some of the very common questions that a lot of us have in mind. And these answers are going to come from a very senior and a very dignified faculty in our field. It gives me great honor and it is a privilege to welcome Dr. Shaji Thomas sir. Sir has been my thesis guide, my mentor, more like my family now. He has nurtured thousands of medical students in Lady Hardinge Medical College, and a lot of surgeons have been trained under his mentorship. So before we go ahead into this conversation, I would request sir to introduce himself.
A very warm welcome to all the viewers. I must thank Dr. Gunjan for having brought me into the spotlight. I am Dr. Shaji Thomas. I am a Director Professor of Surgery at Lady Hardinge Medical College in New Delhi. My specialty is general surgery with special interest in breast cancer.
Once again, thank you sir for this opportunity to ask these questions to you directly. The first question that we would like to ask you and get your opinion is on the topic of why to become a doctor or why to become a surgeon. So let us all know a brief about how you became a doctor. Were there any doctors in your family who wanted you to be a doctor? And what was your journey like to reach where you are currently?
As far as my family background is concerned, in my generation or above me, there were no doctors in my family. Although after me, there are a lot of my cousins, etc., who are doctors. After schooling, I had two options. I had taken bio as well as maths, so I could try for both engineering as well as medicine. I applied for both, and I was selected in IIT first, in IIT Delhi as in electrical engineering. But I was not keen on that because my first choice was electronics and communication, so I didn't join. I got my medical done, and then I came back and I told my parents that, look, I'll take up medicine. And medicine was a fascinating subject, and I was interested in that. And shortly after, I got my selection call from JIPMER Pondicherry, where I did my graduation. Subsequently, I did my post-graduation from All India Institute of Medical Sciences, where I worked there as a senior assistant and as a faculty. Then I joined UCMS as a faculty, and then Lady Hardinge as a faculty, where I'm still there now. As far as the motivation is concerned, yes, it was my interest. I was fascinated by medicine right from the beginning, from school itself. And so it was my passion, and I went for that. Although I was interested in maths also, but I think eventually I decided I'll take up medicine, which was one of the two major options that I had when I finished school. And in my career path after joining medicine, well, I have reached up to, gone up the ladder to reach up to this present position of a faculty in a medical college. So for me, I found it fairly easy and comfortable. But although I won't say that for everyone, in the sense that after every degree or every qualification, you have to go through a competitive examination. So some make it to the next level, some branch off to something else, some other career options. So there are options available at every step. So for me, I didn't find the career path to be particularly difficult. It was something that I was fascinated, something that I was interested, and so I have enjoyed my career up to where I am today.
Wow, that's a fascinating journey from JIPMER to AIIMS and Lady Hardinge. And I must say, sir, it's very humble of you to say that it was easy. Being in this career for a short time, I know that it's not easy to do what you have done. But I get the message that motivation is the passion. If you are passionate about this field, join it. Enjoy the journey and not the destination. Going to the next question, sir, a lot of people ask, what are the key qualities to be a doctor? What are the qualities that we should imbibe if we want to be a doctor?
Now, to become a doctor or a surgeon, or I would say a doctor, I would say there are two important qualities that a person must have. Generally, one tends to think that he should be intellectually very bright. He should be the topper of his batch. Well, that is true. He needs to have a good intellectual ability, all right. But I would say far more important than that is to have good communication skills and to have empathy with the patients who come to you. Communication skills, because you are dealing with not just some organic lesion or a tumor or a hernia. You are dealing with the functional overlay of that particular disease on the patient and his family. It is not just the patient but the entire family that is affected when they come to a hospital. So you should be able to communicate with them, calm them, soothe them, find out what their problems are and try to deal with those problems, which many of them are maybe functional overlays. The distress, the anxiety, what they can tell you often may be something that they may not even tell their parents or their spouses. So you should know how to handle that information, how to deal with that patient, his family, and empathize with him. You know, he's got a genuine problem. So don't just treat it as a case or as a tumor or as a hernia. You have to treat him as a patient who's come with a problem, and that has to be sorted. And for that, one has to have very good communication skills, and one needs to have a lot of empathy to deal with such a situation.
So that cleared, the next important question, sir, is, and that is something that all of us wonder, that how do we keep updating ourselves? There is so much of knowledge out there, things keep changing, new technologies keep coming.
In my situation, in a medical college, where every time when I go to a hospital, I am meeting students, I have to mandatorily update myself every day. I had topic discussions today, I had a mortality morbidity today, I had to look back over the patients that had been seen, what would be discussed, and I had till late last night, I was reading up about those conditions. I may have read up those conditions several times, many times before in the past, but I would still read up because I know tomorrow I am going to discuss these topics with my students. And so I have to be fresh, I have to be aware of the latest knowledge and the guidelines before I can face them. They are outstanding students. They are the best of the country that come here to me. And so I have to be on my toes throughout. So keeping updated has never been a problem. I know that I really cannot go to the wards, to the hospital every day unless I've read up about what I'm going to see or what I know, the problems or the patients or the situations that I'm going to handle tomorrow. So updating myself has not been really an issue. It's something that is part of life now for me and something that I really enjoy.
Well, that's true, sir. We learn as we teach and we teach as we learn, as rightly told by you. Students keep us motivated to read and we can motivate students to read as well. So now coming to some practical questions, sir. A lot of us and a lot of our colleagues or junior students feel stressed in our field, and stress is coming up in a big way, especially since the current COVID crisis has come up. So the question is, how do you manage stress? Or do you have any hobbies, or have you been able to pursue any hobbies?
My hobbies are mainly two. One that is traveling, which I have traveled a fair amount, and the other is gardening, which is a daily activity. And as far as traveling is concerned, I have done a fair amount of traveling, both in India and abroad. It's an interesting pastime. Make it a point to go out, travel somewhere at least once a year. Of course, it hasn't happened in the last couple of years. And my other hobby is gardening, which is a daily activity, nurturing plants and watching nature grow, something that keeps my mind calm, and it's a soothing kind of activity that I undertake to keep myself away from the stresses of surgery.
Well, nurturing plants as a hobby and nurturing students as a profession, I am sure sir is stress-free as always. Whenever we meet him, there is a calming influence around him and the vibes are always amazing. Well, another factor that contributes to stress these days is managing work and life balance. And that is one of the very common problems that doctors and surgeons face in their life. So, what are your opinions or your messages to manage work-life balance in our practice, sir?
I think when you join medical profession, which you know is stressful, I think one must realize right at the onset that this is a profession. You have a life beyond that. your home, your family, your parents, your spouse, your children, they take priority. So when I come home, I try not to bring the problems of the hospital at home or discuss them or create a stressful situation at home. I have to look after my parents, my wife, my children. I have to see what I have to purchase for the kitchen and any maintenance in the house, plan out, what I have to do during the weekend with my family. And that gives a different, that's what actually keeps you calm, and that is your priority. And although I enjoy my profession, I think a profession is always a profession. It should not take over my life. Somewhere you have to come to that, realization early in life that you should not try to let the profession take over your life and create a stressful situation at home.
Well, as they say, profession is just a part of life and it is not the entire life. Personal, professional, family and social are different aspects of life that we need to take care of. And as rightly explained by Sir, work-life balance is very important. Thank you, Sir, for inspiring me and a lot of us who have been in touch with you. And I am sure through this video you are going to inspire many more. Since we are on the topic of gratitude, I am sure that in your career and in your life as well, Sir, you would like to thank a lot of people who have helped you or who have been there to support you in your career.
I'd like to thank obviously my family first. They are the ones who supported me all through, from the time when I left home in Delhi to go to Pondicherry, 2,500 kilometers away, at the time when there were no mobile phones. I was financially dependent on my parents, obviously, for my fees and my staying there. And there were no telephones. You had to do an STD call. Letters would take a week. So it is the feeling that you have family to back you up that actually keeps you going. And then later on, my wife, my children, they were all there to help, to support me when you come home. Surgery can be stressful at times. So family, of course, would be the first that I would thank. Next, I would thank my patients. Because whatever I have learned from my patients. And it is rightly taught that patients are your best teachers. And every time I see a patient, every time I meet my students in the ward, I always ask them during rounds, after every patient, what has this patient taught you? Every patient comes to teach me something, teach us as a medical team something. No matter how many times you've seen the same kind of condition before, it may be hernia, it may be tumor, it may be malignancy, every patient is different and every patient comes to teach you something. It's just that you have to be alert and receptive enough to see or try to figure out what is it that I can learn from this patient. So yes, I would like to thank my patient and of course my medical teachers. Throughout my career, I have been blessed to have some outstanding teachers, my undergraduation, my post-graduation and throughout. And I am really thank them. And what I am today is because of my teachers. I can never really pay back the debt that I owe them. And I have been very, very fortunate in having such teachers.
Well, very rightly said, sir. And of course, I have learned this from you, that each patient can teach us something. And believe me, all the viewers out there, this is one of the most important messages. Well, the next and very important question, sir, is regarding private practice versus institutional practice. I know that you have taught thousands of students in Lady Hardinge Medical College, being an institution. But what are your opinions on the new generation wanting to be specialists in private nursing homes versus private hospitals or institutional practice?
In one's career in medicine, one might choose to go in for private practice or go for an institutional practice. Now, for private practice, as a surgeon, if you're planning to build up a nursing home of your own and then do surgical procedures, that can be quite stressful because you need to handle the clinical part of it, the post-operative problems, the medical issues, the infrastructural issues, the financial issues, the legal issues. Well, unless you're particularly inclined to take up this kind of additional hassles, it can be it can be stressful. Even if one is confining oneself to very limited type of surgery, it still can be very stressful. Institutional practice is obviously far better because the administrative, financial, the legal aspects are taken care of by the hospital administration. But if it's a private practice in a private institution, then again it's a one-man show. The patient comes to you as a particular individual as a surgeon, and he expects you to treat him. and you really don't have much of a team to fall back on. It's just it's a one-man show. But if you're doing an institutional practice in a government, say in a medical college, there you have proper team, a unit with faculty where you can give your responsibilities or share responsibilities and teach and train. So that is far more comfortable. Although in a government institution there is a limit to which you can achieve, or the limit to the rapidity with which you can achieve excellence in a particular field. But yes, it's far more comfortable and probably far more satisfying to have an institutional practice in a government organization or a medical college.
So towards the end of this conversation, sir, I would request you to give a message to all the viewers out there who are aspiring to be doctors.
My message to interns and MBBS students planning to take up surgery: whatever subject at the level of an intern you plan or you like or you plan to take up, the subject of your passion, always try for it. Always follow your passion. But it is a reality that you may not get your passion. You may try for it because it's a competitive field. You write your examination based on your rank, you get your subject, your college, your state. So you have to keep all that in mind. And when you enter the medical profession, there are 20 different branches in the medical profession. You should be willing to excel in any branch that you choose or that you have got after your competitive examination. You cannot say that I want only general surgery but I will not take up ophthalmology or I will not take up ENT. If you have got, try for your passion, try for the field that has excited you. But if you do not get that, you get your second choice, forget about the field that you could not get. You excel in whatever you have got, because every medical branch is fascinating if you go into it, and you should have the skill and the ability to excel in the field that you go. So I would wish you all the best in your career, in your future. It's an exciting field, and I'm sure you'll find whichever specialty that you go in is something that you'll always enjoy. And keep going and keep doing well. Thank you.
I would once again like to thank you, sir, for giving us the time and the opportunity to ask you these questions. To our viewers, I hope that this video gives you answers to a lot of questions that you may have had in your mind while being a doctor or while thinking of becoming a doctor. The key messages are: learn from each patient, have empathy, communicate well to the patient and the family. Another important point that I have learned from sir, but for want of time we have not discussed it here, is that document each and every finding that you have properly in the files. And this is something that sir emphasizes on in our practice, and we have learned it from him, and it has saved us many times. So documentation is important. Key messages: have hobbies, follow your passion, and be a doctor only if it inspires you to be a doctor, so that you can inspire others. Thank you.